Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final walkthrough. I am Johnny Noriega. Very excited for today's topic. We will be talking about Airbnbs. As you may or may not know, Airbnb, huge worldwide company. We looked up some numbers here, 150 million users worldwide that have Airbnb properties, over 1 billion stays over the last few years. Average stay in North America is roughly $163 a night. And the average Airbnb rental is booked 21 months out of the year. So it's a very popular subject when it comes to investing and putting money into real estate. And today to talk about that, we have Yulie Guerrero. She is with eXp Realty and a close friend. I knew her before real estate, so we'll dive into that topic as well. Quick notes about Yulie. Licensed in 2021, hit the ground running, was Rookie of the Year out of her office the first year, which is awesome. During spring and summer years of 2023, she has been in the top 10 of her office in production, and she services both the state of Illinois and Wisconsin. So very nice to have you, Yulie. How are you?
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes, that deserves a round of applause, right? That's awesome. Thank you again for taking the time. You drove how many hours to be here?
Almost 3 because of traffic.
Almost 3 because of traffic.
Yeah, it's usually not that bad. It was crazy today.
All the way from Wisconsin. And how do you live in Wisconsin, correct?
Yeah, so I live in Milwaukee. It's actually not that far. It's like an hour 40 maybe, but of course, because of traffic, it can get a little bit longer. But yeah, it's not too bad. I'm used to it, I guess. So the drive usually isn't that bad for me.
What area in Wisconsin do you
in Milwaukee. So
Milwaukee
south
area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So southeast Wisconsin, and it's probably one of the biggest cities in all of Wisconsin.
Sure.
So it's pretty cool.
And it's not too far out from Chicago, right?
Right.
From the city, it's a couple hours maybe, 2-3 hours?
It's actually, no, it's only like an hour away from the city. Going from Milwaukee to Chicago, it's way faster because there's like no traffic.
Right.
Coming back can sometimes be a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But it's probably like
today.
an hour. Yeah. It's probably like an hour, 20 minutes, if anything. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Like literally you go straight up, like straight north, and you're there.
Yeah. No, I've had a few visits up there during baseball season, Cubs. So no offense if you're a Brewers fan now that you live up there, but we call the Brewers Field Chicago North because few times we've been there, it's like the majority Cubs fans. I don't know if that's still a thing, but
no, it literally is like that. We've gone to games. We're not really big baseball fans, but when we do go, it's like half and half, it's crazy. Like there's so much blue for like Cubs.
Sure.
And so I'll wear a Cubs shirt. I haven't,
you haven't
switched
lost your
over.
Roots. Good.
Yeah, I have not switched over, but it's still a good time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's great. Well, our topic today, Airbnbs. Before we get into that though, a little insight into your career. So technically you're still a fairly newer agent, but you've amassed such just numbers, right, in the first couple years. What has kind of led to that? So is it mentorship? Is it just you having a knack for, because I feel like real estate in general, it's more self-driven. It's you have to kind of learn as it goes. So what were some things that helped you in your first year or two?
Yeah, so definitely I had to learn a lot of stuff by myself. It was really hard at first because of that. I didn't know anybody close to me that was a realtor. So that was very difficult and all of that. But I'm just a people person, like naturally. So that was kind of where I was able to get a lot of that traction. I would meet people, let them know, like, it's easy to buy a house. It's easier than a lot of people think. So then they would talk about me, refer me clients and all that stuff. So that was definitely like what helped me because social media is awesome, but I'm not great at it. So where I can be like amazing is face-to-face conversations. So I'll be in the line at like a grocery store and I'll talk to people about real estate. And that's actually, kind of how we got into Airbnb too, is like once we got into it through talking to friends, now we talk to everyone about it. So it's like, it's just one of those things, I just like talking to people. So
the last few jobs you've had, have they dealt with working with people or is this something new to you?
So previous to this, I worked in corporate America, and previous to that, I worked as an insurance agent. So being an insurance agent, it was a lot of face-to-face. So that was really cool, a lot of customer service. But then when I went to corporate America, it was actually not customer service based. So I think that's why I couldn't do it anymore, because I didn't like it. It was too quiet for me. I just missed that, so that's how I was able to transition.
I got it. Yeah, because I feel a lot of times real estate it's 50-50, right? It's 50% you being, like you mentioned, a people person, and then 50% doing some self-promotion and getting your name out there, and social media is definitely a huge stepping stone into getting that. What do you do currently now for marketing? Because you still service both, right? We've had deals here in Illinois, but you're also closing in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so right now I'm primarily focused in Wisconsin, just because I do live there. But definitely, if people, if I get referrals out here in Illinois, anywhere in the west suburbs, south suburbs, I'm all for it. I'm always there for them, and so I make trips out here anyways for family. And like I said, once you get used to it, it's not that bad. So to me, it's like, it's just like any other client.
Wherever the client needs you, for sure.
Exactly.
And I don't mean to ignore your partner here, Jose. Welcome to the show as well. Can you introduce Jose a little bit? Tell me a little about him?
This is Jose. A lot of us call him Joe.
Joe. Okay.
And so we actually met out here not Joliet, but Romeoville. We met at school. And we...
Same grade, or who's older, who's younger?
Ooh, are you sure you want to go there?
Yes, let's answer
Oh
the
my
main
God.
question.
Okay,
Hot topic.
I'm a grade older, but
Okay.
But I make it seem like 20 grades older.
he
Yeah.
You know how it
does.
goes.
He does.
Yeah.
But we met at school, and we kind of dated at first, but didn't take each other serious, and now we're like the most serious, like not just life partners, but like business partners as well. So it's been working out really well.
Yeah, no, I remember having some conversations with you, Joe, when you had made the move to Wisconsin, and you guys were looking at properties both in Illinois and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
That was kind of like on the fence, and right away, you were like analytical, like numbers, like they got to make sense. So I feel like this is a good duo here. Right?
It is, for sure, and I always tell him too, like, that's your job. Like, you take care of that stuff. I take care of this other stuff. Like, we have our roles, and I feel like that's why we've worked out so well in the business too, because we play our roles very well. And so, that helps, having someone that can basically pick up where you're not that great at, and vice versa.
Yeah.
What drew both of you to the Airbnb side of the business? Because I mean, there's the common ones that you see out there are like your long-term rentals, right? Like you buy a 2-unit, you live in one, you rent it out, you move out, you rent both out. Airbnb, while it's a hot item the last few years, it's not really a common one. At least in my line of work, I don't have a lot of clients that say, hey, I want to buy a house to do Airbnb. It's mostly either I want to live in it or I want to rent it out long term to someone else. What drew you? Do you have friends that do Airbnb? Do you know a lot of people? Did you study the business? What got you into that?
It was my friend that got us into it. She's a realtor.
Okay.
And she she just kind of told me about her Airbnb. I went, checked it out, all of that. And then we got our first house, and that's kind of where he comes in, because he was like, he basically planned it out in a way that it worked for us where we were currently living. So
Yeah, and I think, a big key when it comes to Airbnb is definitely the location of it. Thankfully, in Milwaukee, we live in a neighborhood that's probably considered one of the hottest. We resemble it to it's like the Pilsen of Milwaukee, very similar in terms of restaurants. It's a foodie area, a lot of bars, and it's just very close to the city. So we had that working in our favor, and we decided to house hack our single family house and basically convert it into a sneaky duplex.
Sure.
So that's when we decided to Airbnb the upper unit of the home.
Did you ever think about just doing the regular long-term rental, or were you like, no, it's got to be Airbnb?
Yeah, I feel like we talked about it, but very quickly in the process, we're like, it has to be an Airbnb.
Because of location. Mm-hmm. The location is just so hot. And even finding that house, our first home in Wisconsin, even finding that one, like, it was never on market. I found it off market by cold calling. And so, because I knew I wanted to live in that particular neighborhood. So I was texting and calling the neighbor, or, the people that live there, absentee owners and everything like that. That's how I found it. Originally, the house was like perfect for us. Well, so we thought, right? But it actually ended up being too big for us because the way that the house is structured felt like two houses or like two units in one house, like a duplex.
Because it's just you two right now, right?
Yeah, just us two and our two dogs.
Yeah, okay.
So it was, I just felt like it was too big for us, and we spent most of our time, like most of our day, downstairs in the what I call now the lower unit, and so it just got to the point where I'm like, okay, we're not really upstairs. There's a bunch of space. It's like a whole apartment, like a studio apartment.
Yeah.
So my friend, she told me you should look into Airbnb, and she taught me kind of the ropes, and that's when we're like, okay, let's try it out.
Yeah. Let's dive into that a little bit. So for anyone that's watching that is like, well, I have a home that I just bought and been here a few years and might be making a move, and I thought about doing like long-term rental, but give us some insight into the beginning stages of mapping out or planning your Airbnb. So what are like the research, I assume, of like numbers, like what you could rent it out for? What's the initial setup? You go through the app, I assume, right? Through Airbnb, or what do you go through?
Correct. Yeah. So you go through the app, but in terms of like research, I honestly did not know nothing. So I started, where everyone probably should start is the app. So I, went incognito mode. And I searched my own neighborhood to kind of get a gist of what our neighbors were renting it for, and try to get comps, basically, and try to find areas that were similar to, the upper unit in our house, just so I could try to gauge, what we would charge per night, and things like that. I think very quickly that was the eye opener, because I was like, wow, they're actually charging X amount for a night, and then going back to like the different skill sets of us, my mind kind of goes wild when I see that. Sure. And then I start doing the numbers. Hey, if we have an occupancy rate of 50% per month, this is what I could potentially make.
Yeah.
So I had different scenarios, and I think they all kind of led to the easy decision of, hey, let's pull the trigger on going live.
I'm curious, when you mapped out your own area, like, did a lot pop out where they're like, man, I'm just gonna be one more in this sea of like Airbnbs? Or in your area, was it scarce, or what it looked like?
There were some for sure. Actually, our neighbors, not our next door neighbors, but like a couple of doors down, we saw that they came up on the Airbnb app and everything like that. So I think it was very like, wow, we didn't know, we wouldn't have known, but yeah, we're just like, the worst thing that could happen is that, one, we either don't like it because there's crazy people or something, or two, we don't make much money to where it's worth it, so we just take it off because we're living in the house anyway, so it wasn't like an extra expense. I think that was like a huge pro to the whole situation, that in our minds there wasn't any losing in the whole experience.
Yeah, because with anything there's risk, but you're still in the spot, you can keep a close eye on it, so if you do have something crazy, it's not a long-term thing where you got to go to court and kick them out and like you would like a tenant, or eviction process, but it's 1 or 2 nights, 1 weekend kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did the research, you priced it out. Now, I've always been curious about the items in the home. So is this more your obviously it's your stuff, but it's not like personal stuff. You don't have like pictures up of yourselves or anything, right?
No.
All over the unit. So do you go to so you take all the personal stuff out, and then what is it? You just hit IKEA or Amazon and start filling it, or how does that work?
Yeah, the good thing is that we already had, some furniture. So it was very easy for us to just get some other little odds and ends. Yes, we went, Amazon, of course.
Sure.
But we actually even found like little things here and there on Facebook Marketplace. I saw a bunch of stuff on there. So I would just kind of browse. And if there was something that I liked, I'd be like, oh, let's get it, Most of it was Amazon, and still is whenever we like get our, shampoo and conditioner and everything like that. There is no personal items upstairs in the upper unit. It's actually kind of like Milwaukee themed. Yep. Because we have some Milwaukee like items, like a map of Milwaukee, and like a cheese head, the ones that we use. Yeah,
Chicagoans, do not get mad, please.
Yeah, we have it like on the wall and stuff. To make it a theme, to make it like fun, and so it's not like a boring hotel stay.
Because the majority of your people are out of state, I assume, to come visit for a weekend, come out, or maybe some locals?
It's extreme. It's interesting. It's opened my eyes for sure. So like so Chicago is actually probably the most people that we get from, but also northern Wisconsin, Minnesota. But we've had people from all over the place. California, a few people.
Really? Okay.
We had a guy from Hawaii stay.
Nice.
So it's interesting. And then like the main reasons that people book, at least ours, I feel like there's three. It's either a sporting event, a concert, and then the surprising one to me were weddings. That's something that I didn't think about, but thankfully we live by like 5 or 6 wedding venues.
Yeah,
and
it's a lot.
yeah, and people book a lot for that reason. So
Interesting.
yeah, it was interesting to kind of find out, as we started the journey.
So in terms of pricing, I've always been curious about this too. I assume you have like a set rate, but then does it fluctuate if there's like a major sporting event or a holiday or weekend versus weekday? Is that also taken into account?
Yeah, so Airbnb has a tool, and it's all with algorithms and whatnot. But based on supply and demand, they're gonna basically fluctuate the price. That could change on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. Just depends on what the supply and demand is. So that's like Airbnb's model. There's also other companies that specialize in that. So actually, when we're getting ready to launch we just moved out. We're getting ready to launch the second Airbnb in the
bottom unit.
Yeah.
where we used to live, and I'm thinking about moving away from kind of using Airbnb's model and using a more like a company that specializes in that and is more dynamic when it comes to.
So you can outsource that and generate
Correct.
a little bit of a, I guess, more aggressive pricing module or something like that too.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's they're just a little bit more fast to react. So
Got it.
for example,
Yeah.
like Harley Davidson was just celebrating their 120th anniversary this past weekend, and we got booked for that event like maybe like 10 minutes after
Yeah.
they announced it back in
Really?
like
Quick.
January of this year. So people were wanting to book that event, and unfortunately we like didn't price it well enough because it was just so quick. That they announced it and then they booked it like a couple minutes later.
Got it.
So other platforms would allow us to like capitalize on hot events.
Yeah. In a given month, how much are you guys renting out for? Is it like currently as of today, let's say, do you have
Percentage-wise?
August right now? Is it pretty much?
Yeah, so August is pretty much booked.
Really?
Weekends are obviously hot.
All of them are basically booked.
Yeah, we're starting to get some trickle effect into September as well. But yeah, the weekdays, those typically aren't booked in advance for probably obvious reasons. But yeah, the weekends are just pretty much we could bank on someone staying.
What's the
at our
longest you've
house.
had someone stay?
5 days.
5 days.
5
So we
days?
actually had a guy at the beginning who was he was from like St. Louis or something, and he traveled once a month to his corporate job, which was like right down the street from us, and he would stay with us for like 5 days for 5 days each month for like the first like 4 or 5 months that we launched.
wow.
So that was a pretty nice boost
Yeah.
to kind of hit the ground running.
Nice. Talk to me about the first times you've had people like in your home, because I feel that's a little bit at first, right? It might feel a little like invasive, like you got someone stranger living upstairs for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Do you have some like stories that you could share about that?
Yeah, so even though it's a single family technically, right? Because we did break it up into 2 units, there are 2 doors that people have to get through in order to get into their unit, right? So we never encounter them. So that's the awesome thing about it, that we never run into them. Nothing is done face to face. It's all through the app. And then he actually set up their codes, for the doors. That way the last 4 digits of the person's phone number is used for the code. That way they can't say that they forgot it or anything like that. So at first, I think you still remember our first day. We were like creeping. So we have a bunch of cameras, right? That's another really helpful
Exterior,
thing.
Let me
Yeah.
disclaimer there.
Yes,
Yeah,
please
yeah,
let us
we
know
were-
where these cameras are for the
we-
record. They're outside. Okay.
Right. They're
Right.
all exterior cameras,
Yeah.
but we have a few. And so, we saw when they arrived, when they got out of their car, and then they were like approaching the house, and we're like, oh my God. And it ended like they weren't even there. A lot of people, because they do stay for events, they just get to the Airbnb, drop their stuff off, and basically leave until like after midnight. So, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And I think they left the next day, and they left us like such an amazing review.
Good.
And I'm like, oh my God, that was like so easy. We didn't even hear them like get back. Right.
That was actually a crazy story because like even like 1 hour before they were supposed to arrive, like we were still putting the finishing touches
Oh my
to
God,
the
yeah.
Airbnb.
Really?
So we were like
Yeah.
hanging things up. We were
Yes.
doing a bunch
Is that
of
them?
stuff.
Is that them?
Oh
Are they
my
here?
gosh, yes.
Yeah.
So we were still finishing up some like painting. Like, when you're done with something and then you step back and look at it, that's when you notice like, okay, I need this, I need that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what was happening. And obviously it ended up working out really great. Besides that, though, we don't really have any crazy stories. We've gotten really lucky.
Knock on wood, right? Let's
I
knock on some
know.
wood
We
here.
do have two kind of crazy ones,
Yeah.
but not
Yeah.
like they're not even that bad.
I was just doing the math, and so we've had we just hit our 103rd or 4th
Wow.
guest
Congratulations.
in
Okay.
less than a year, and out of that, we've only had like 2, I would call them bad encounters with
Yeah.
people.
Is
but-
it just they like messed it up a little bit, or what?
No.
Too loud, or?
Well, the first couple, I guess, they were fighting at like 5 in the morning.
Oh no!
Oh my
Okay.
God, it was so crazy. So they woke us up because they were screaming at each other. Well, the guy was screaming, and they took it outside, which is cool. But
then you could see them. You're like,
But then we
"Yes,
could see
here
them,
we go."
and we did because we were like, "What the heck is going on?" Honestly, we were kind of scared for the girl because I
Sure.
was like, sounds like he's getting a little too crazy. Maybe we should call the cops. So we did look at the camera to see what was going on to make sure. Luckily, nothing physical happened, but it was over super dumb stuff because we could listen.
Oh, sure.
And plus, they were screaming, so it was unavoidable. So that was the first one, and then the guy like threw something against a wall, so it made like a little hole. Nothing too crazy. The second one that recently happened, like a month or 2 ago,
Yeah.
was this girl booked for her little sister who. Honestly, I think she was underage, and she brought all her little friends, and I say little because they were literally young. And so then they came, and I'm like, no, first of all, you're not the person that booked. There's a limit, and you guys are going to come have a party, which is extremely against our rules. Like, no. And so luckily we were able to get them out almost right away within like the first 2-3 hours that they were there. And they kind of put up a fight, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And I'm like, okay, they're kids kind of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're not going to argue with them or fight with them. We're just going to tell them you have to go.
Yeah.
And they did.
And there's like certain house rules that you could like put in Airbnb. So I always recommend to be as prescriptive as possible because we clearly state like you can't, like if you book, you have to show up. You can't book for another person.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you have to basically register every single person that is gonna come. So
Yeah. I've done my fair share of booking Airbnbs, and some of them are like, I need an ID of everyone
Yeah.
that's going to be in there. No parties, no loud music past like 10 or something like that. So is this molded to like how you would want, or are there standards that Airbnb puts in place, or is it just whatever?
It's up to the host
Okay.
discretion. So that's typical language that we include in ours as well.
Got it. Okay. And I assume now that you're going to rent both out, you have to account because one of them might be staying for like business. They have to get some sleep. You
Yeah.
don't want downstairs to be throwing like a rave or anything. So
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Okay. Are you nervous for that now that you're going to be out of the picture and it's going to be more like alone? Whereas before it's like you kept an eye on it, but now it's going to be far from you.
I don't think that we're that nervous just because we do have the protection of the videos outside,
Yeah.
which help a lot. I feel like people have literally thought about doing something dumb and they look at the camera and then they're like, never mind. I swear to God.
Really?
So it's crazy, you know? And so I'm not too nervous about it, at least not me personally, but I think that is something that we did have to think about. Like, who are we catering this Airbnb to, right? So at first we were thinking about putting bunk beds in one of the rooms and then in the other room having like a king size bed. But then after we thought about it and talked about it, I'm like, we don't really want to cater to families because it's not a family neighborhood, really. Everything that's walking distance is basically like bars, clubs,
Nightlife.
or
Yeah.
exactly, breweries. So although people can bring their kids if they want to, it's not tailored for them. And so we decided to get a king and a queen instead. So that way it could be like, adults, maybe
Or
a
like
max.
two couples, maybe three.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, more of a kind of a weekend getaway type.
How are your guys' reviews? 5 stars still?
Oh
Or-
man, don't get me started.
Oh my God, that's all of that is him.
Or did you break the perfect streak? Because I've heard some stories from other people that own Airbnbs. They're like, I got my first 4 stars. I'm
Oh
so
my
disappointed.
gosh.
Let me tell you,
Yes.
Yeah.
it happened on November 18th, 2022.
Knows the
No, I'm
date and the
playing,
time.
I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly.
But we have gotten 2 4 stars, and I definitely still talk to it. Talk
Out of
about
100
that.
and something, huh?
Yeah. I still talk about that to this day because it is.
It's a thorn,
disappointing,
right?
but,
You just
it's all
stare at
good.
it.
yeah, he's so hurt about it. I'm just
I have to
like,
take it on the chin and move on.
Yeah.
yeah, but some people like they don't if it's not extremely perfect above and beyond their imagination,
Yeah.
they just put a 4. Like they probably loved it, they just put a 4.
I'm curious, did they put a reason why it
Oh,
was a 4 or no?
gosh.
Yeah.
What'd they say?
The one that stands out didn't make sense. So that was the frustrating part about it. But basically, she had
Too many cameras outside. No.
I mean, that would have made more sense.
She made a
No.
comment about how the bed was made, and it was like normal, like how anyone else would make
What?
their bed.
Yeah.
There was
the
no
bed.
chocolates when I walked in. There was
Yeah,
no.
Yeah,
Okay,
she just said it was like a different style. Scandinavian or not Scandinavian, one or the other.
Which I have no idea.
I don't know what that means.
We
I don't
still
know.
don't
Just-
know. And honestly,
At
no
this point,
one.
we don't want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm like, what? Like everyone else loves the bed, so
Sure.
no. So I didn't take serious. I was just
Yeah.
like, whatever, move on. We're still super hosts,
Right.
So to me, that's the important thing. Like we just see that badge, and I'm like, okay, we're good.
Still there.
He's more like, oh, they put because when you check out of an Airbnb, you can put like out of 5 stars for location, out of 5 stars for cleanliness. He'll look at it and like thoroughly, to look at it. I'm just like, all right, overall 5-star, cool. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I also
So-
look at that just to see what we could improve upon.
Right.
To try to get as many learnings as we can to
Sure.
try to perfect it.
Yeah.
Right.
And is that with each one that you get at a 5-star? Does that help you like in the search, or what does help in the search? Because I feel like if I go right now and I put Milwaukee area Airbnb, I'm gonna have like 100, 200 right pop up, and then I can only scroll down so much, filter it out. What what things do you put in place, or are there things that you can put in place that helps you kind of get to the top of the search bar, or no?
I think the fact
Yeah.
that we're super hosts.
That helps.
Yeah, so that helps tremendously. So to become a superhost, you basically have to have at least 20 reviews total, and then a certain number of, I think it's like, I don't know, like 4.6 or 7
Oh, Okay.
out of 5. And
See, so
then-
those
There.
5s help.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
they
keep the
do.
5s coming, girl.
I
Keep
don't
the
know. I
5s
guess
coming.
I'm just like, hey, we're still making that money, so it's all good.
and then
Yeah.
and then after every 3 months you basically have to like renew it. So if you have a bad quarter and you get a few 1 stars, 2 stars, whatever, they could remove the superhost
no
from
way.
you.
Okay.
So they do that to obviously encourage you to continue to
Continue
go
to use
above
it.
and beyond. So we became superhosts in the first basically in the first 3 months that we started, which was great. But yeah, so that helps a lot, and then also basically expanding. So not being too picky on what you allow and don't allow, and that's what we did at the beginning. We actually even like offered promotions for like the first 3 guests that booked to try to entice people to try it out, basically. And then just trying to be as obviously having your calendar open and not blocking off dates, because that kind of hurts you in a sense.
Okay.
There's a lot of small things.
Okay. And you mentioned that you almost have zero contact with the guests that come in, and I've had that too, where it's the code. There's no key, right? You can come in and out. I think it's only been one where it was a key and they had to come in and give it to me at the end. I left it in the drawer or something. But you said for the most part, you don't talk to, like physically at least?
Yeah, I think it's
A lot of messages though, or?
oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
all messages, and again, he's the one that takes care of that because I think he's so great at it. He's so specific. They ask a question, he's so thorough with that answering and giving them like tips on where to go and recommendations and everything like that. So I leave it to him.
You don't got that kind of
But-
time.
I really
you're
don't.
out
Actually,
there working.
he hates it because I'm so like, in person I'm not dry, but through message sometimes I just get to the point, and he does not like that, which I understand. But I'm just like, well, what? I answered their question, but he's
One
like,
word,
no, but
yes.
you have to. Honestly, I forgot what they asked one time, and he was like, "I'm just." Oh, they asked like, "How far are you from this venue or whatever?" And I just wrote back, like, we're 8 minutes away.
8 minutes.
And then he was like, no, like, you have to be, like, nice and, like,
Yeah.
tell them, like, oh, it's an easy Uber ride or whatever, be more specific, like, not just 8 minutes.
Sure.
So.
And that helps. That helps in the reviews. I know, and thinking the times I've stayed at Airbnb, those little details count. Because I feel like a lot of times, like you mentioned, you go there, you leave right away because you want to explore the city, you want to
Yeah.
go out, you have your venue. So really the things that will stand out are, the bed, the kitchen, the bathroom. And then obviously if I had a question, did you leave me unread?
Yeah.
Did you respond right away? Did you give me a one-word answer? Those are the kind of things.
Oh my
But
God.
It's even like just trying to go above and beyond. So when people book, it's like a preset answers that I set, or preset questions that I ask them. So like, why are you in town? What type of car are you driving? Things like that. So if they say, oh, we're celebrating, my birthday or whatever, we've quickly gone to the store, bought a little $5 care package and like a happy birthday balloon or whatever, and we put it upstairs, and that's pretty much a
Nice.
guaranteed 5-star because
Nice.
They walk into that and they're like, oh my
no,
god, it's
and
so
no one does
thoughtful.
that. No one really does that I've seen or heard. So those
Yeah.
little things help. So I want to kind of tie this into maybe advice that you would give others that are looking to do this for the first time. So you've already blown past your rookie year in doing this, and have you're going on your second unit to do this and keep expanding. So if someone were to say, hey, I have a similar situation where I want to get into it, is there like a top 3 or top 5 things that you would recommend that they either research or look into or do or don't? Because a lot of times, especially when you're like decorating the unit, I think I would go overboard and I would spend so much. But I assume you have to budget, you have to look at your monthly costs versus what comes in. So what are give me 3 or 5 main points of what you need to do to start if I wanted to do Airbnb, let's say.
I would say definitely, if you can, try to find someone that has done it before, or that has an Airbnb. That way they can kind of guide you on, okay, don't forget this, don't forget that, because at the beginning, it is kind of tough, like anything, you don't know, and you kind of learn as you go. So having someone that can guide you, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, all that stuff really, really helps, especially so that you feel more comfortable. Also, don't be afraid to put limits, limit on who can stay at your place, because we did that. We don't allow locals to stay in our place unless it's way in advance or something like that. And the reason is because we don't want people that, let's say a couple gets in a fight and the girl kicks a guy out. Is he going to stay with us? Is it going to cause problems? What if they become a squatter? Stuff like that.
Sure.
You just never know. So we are kind of picky on who we now allow to stay at our place. But so don't be afraid, to do that. I would say those are my main things. What would you say?
For me, obviously, research, depending on the market that you're going to be in. I know, laws and regulations are in place in some spots. Thankfully, in Milwaukee, it's pretty much open ground right now. No one needs a license or anything
yet.
like that. But I know not all cities are like that. So definitely do your research before you jump into it to see if it's even allowed where you currently live or where you're planning to buy. I would also say, take a very close look at automation tools. I think it could get very tedious to respond to messages and, do all the things that are needed to set a guest up. But there's tools that help with that to make it easier. So those would probably be my top two.
Nice. Okay. And so you're about to do your second unit here. Any plans to expand the portfolio a little bit more? Long-term rental, short-term Airbnb still, or what's?
Yeah, so I think, we're actually already looking into other opportunities, whether it's buy and hold or Airbnb, but we're definitely open to Airbnb, especially if it's in a really cool place that we would like to stay at from time to time. And I think that, honestly, like, it doesn't even have to be a super hot spot. Like, the house just has to be interesting or cool or close to things that people go to. And then that would make some people some money. For us, though, yeah, we're so, like, into investing that we just want to really, really grow.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because a lot of times, people might say, well, I don't live by a major city. I don't have that sort of, but even you think the suburbs might be a good idea?
Yeah.
Really?
If it's close to a hospital, for example, you can do Airbnb as a midterm. So they can stay there for a minimum of 5-7 days or even 30 days. That way you get people kind of like month to month and it's all furnished. So you'll get nurses or families that are in town for surgeries and stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
Post-COVID, traveling nurses were were pretty popular in various cities, so that became kind of like a thing.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, also too, like major holidays, because I feel like if I travel for Thanksgiving and Christmas every year, my house is just going to sit there. Why not for a week, 2-3 weekends out of the year, make some extra money. And even
100%.
if that's all you do, right? Those major holidays where you're going to go to your in-laws, you're going to go to your parents, and it's just going to sit there. Why not?
Yeah, we highly recommend it because our Airbnb started out by being like space that we just didn't really use, right? So now we're making a decent amount of money on just one, and it's not even like a full Airbnb. It's like a studio, right? Yeah. Doesn't have a full kitchen. That's actually the only thing it doesn't have, a full kitchen. We have like a little kitchenette set up, but besides that, it's just like a place you go and stay, right? We're in a foodie neighborhood, so people that come to stay there are not going to want to cook. They're going to want to go out and explore and everything like that. So I mean, I really like that part about it. But if say a normal person has an extra, a basement unit or a mother-in-law suite, right? If you don't want to rent that out permanently, look into Airbnb. And if you don't like it, don't do it anymore. That's the awesome thing about it. Another thing that we were able to do, because we have people over our place so often when we had that one house, is I would just block off certain weekends when I knew for a fact my friends were going to come over. Because then it's we get the whole house to ourselves. They get their own space where they could stay. And we're not cramped in our lower unit. So it's very, very flexible. I mean, yeah, like I said, we talked to everyone about it. And he's actually moving right now. He's moving into managing for other people because, he's so good at it. He just has systems in place that other people just can't even think of, or it's a waste of time for them. So if he can manage it for them, they're honestly just collecting money at that point because he's doing everything for them. He's handling everything for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think those are some great points you brought up because again, a lot of people think you need some super fancy condo or a huge house that's by the city. But you touched on a good point, a spare, a mother-in-law suite. You could do the second unit up top. And I mean, those are huge extra side hustle moneymaker things that you could do. And it's one of the positives from what I'm hearing compared to long-term rentals where it's it's a year lease and you sign the contract and they pay on time, but they're just so loud sometimes, but you're stuck with them. So that's huge. If you have a bad experience one weekend, that's okay. Take a month off, whatever, regroup, reassess, and then go live again. And it's just continuing to do it. I'm curious, with Airbnb, is that the only way to do like an Airbnb, or are there other websites? Could you do it without Airbnb? Obviously, it's a little bit more easier to move, but what else is out there? Is there other stuff out there?
Yeah, there's VRBO, which is like Airbnb. It's just a little bit different. We actually haven't even looked into it for ourselves because we're doing so well on Airbnb. And then there's also like Furnished Finder, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's like what's it called, a travel website or whatnot.
Yeah,
but that's
like
more for
travel
like
nursing or.
But that's more for like lakeside.
Oh, okay. They cater
Homes
to
and
more specific.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's more destination type places.
I got it. Okay. Nice. Okay. So I want to touch on like the future. So, I mean, you mentioned maybe another potential unit for portfolio. Would you want it to stay in that Milwaukee area, or where would you plan to do it?
If we can, I would love to stay in that neighborhood.
Good.
Just because we love it. And that house that we have, I always like tell him we're never selling it because, you know, we have done so many upgrades to that house, and we gave it a whole new like exterior facelift inside as well. So I'm like, we're never going to sell it because we love it. And I wouldn't be surprised if one day we come back to it, you know, either that or just buy something else in that neighborhood. So I'm like scouting around. I just had a listing down the street from me, like 5 houses down. And that was an awesome duplex, but we were buying this other property at the same time. So I was like, and that was a kind of a fixer-upper too. So we didn't do that. But yeah, if we can stay in that area, but even if we don't, like, honestly, it just depends on the opportunity.
Yeah.
If we come across, let's say a cabin or something that might need a little bit of work, but the price is right, and we know that we can get good money off of Airbnb, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm always down to jump on it.
Yeah. There's a good lesson what you just said. I think, because a lot of times people, and I've been guilty of it sometimes when I would go out and maybe try to look something for myself. You have a lot of emotion with it. You buy from the heart, whereas especially when you're doing these short-term rentals, Airbnb business, you got to take the emotion out of it. You got to take it out, and you got to be more analytical, make sure the numbers make sense, as they say, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of times, especially with my clients, our clients, sometimes they're like, well, they think about it too much, I feel. But
Yeah.
real estate in general, whether you're going to live in it or you're going to rent it out or Airbnb it, I think you should kind of like the emotion should. Is that, you guys agree?
That's where I come into
That's
play.
where you,
Yes, that's him right
Okay.
there. He's, you know,
Yeah.
just looking at the numbers, and I'm over here like, oh, well, I want to stay there too.
Okay, nice. How about personal goals? Any traveling destinations? Anything that you might want to kind of visit, or what do you guys got planned for the next year?
Yeah, I mean, if I could travel every single month, I would, because I love to travel.
Yeah.
But we do have actually some plans to travel this year. We want to go to Colombia,
Nice.
and he wants to go to Italy.
Yes.
Yeah, he wants to go to Italy, maybe Greece, you know, go over there. So definitely a lot of travel plans.
Nice. Okay. Similar plans.
Same. Hey,
Yeah,
if she said it, I have to agree.
Whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but
Basically.
but yeah, from a personal goal, you know, just to continue to refine both of our skill sets when it
Yeah.
comes to real estate, and really, for me at least, get to do deep dives and on the number side of things.
Nice.
So yeah, just trying to put myself in front of the right people that could help out.
Very cool. Very cool. Any final thoughts before we wrap up? Airbnb. I know we talked a lot. Would you mind if anyone reached out to you with questions, or?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always down to help anyone in having any questions, you know, having to do with real estate, period. But I know that we're always down to tell people, explain to them how to do it, any of that. Because we were blessed with my friend, her name is Miriam. We were blessed with her guidance, you know, basically. So now we're helping people out, and we're always just, open to it, you know. So people can reach me on Instagram, Realtor Yulie, or email, phone.
Yeah, we'll have all the info pop up.
Yeah, for sure.
On you. Okay.
But I mean, the first thing is people have to ask, you know, because if they don't, like, you're never going to find out. Doing research is just going to be like, it's going to be a constant thing.
Overwhelming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can do research for years. You don't want to do that. To me, at least I'm the type of person that jumps into things. So without really thinking about it, because I'm just like, whatever, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, whatever. I know not everyone is like that, but I also think that if people hold on for too long, they can miss opportunities, right? Like, we started our Airbnb right after the summer. And I mean, I think that that was a really great thing, because we started it in September of 2022. So we missed the busy summer, but we're like, that's also a good thing because we were not overwhelmed. We were not like scrambling. Like, you know, we started out on a really great pace. So, but like, you know, we wouldn't have known that otherwise. We could have been like, you know what, let's wait it out until next summer. But
Right.
instead, we're just like, let's just do it.
Good.
And so that's really helpful. I think people just try it out.
Just try it
Yeah,
out, just do
my
it.
final thought kind of relating to that is just to start. You know, if you've been thinking about it, if you have already kind of the space or the house and you're thinking about it, just do it. It's not going to be perfect at the beginning, but that's what, you know, by week number 8, you're going to feel like a pro. So,
Nice.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So just start.
Great,
Yeah.
great. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on, taking the time to come all the way
For
from Wisconsin.
sure.
Thank you for coming. Hopefully, next time you stop by, we'll have more of the portfolio, more stories.
We will have more.
More 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
No more 4s. So thanks again. And if you have any questions regarding real estate Airbnb, we will have Yulie and Mai's information in the next slideshow. I want to thank you all for watching. This is the final walkthrough, and we'll see you next time.
Da-na-na-na.
Dun, 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 dun.